Hello folks, Troubletcat here, recording for the Zombie Arcade, and today I wanted to talk about something that I've been thinking about as a result of Battlefield 4 not exactly being announced, but kind of. What happened, so that those of you who don't know, is that in the US Origin store, for a little while, if you went into the store and went to the shooters section, you'd see this big banner telling you that if you pre-ordered Medal of Honor Warfighter, you would get access to the Battlefield 4 beta. And that was up there for, I guess, a few hours or something for a little while, and then it got taken down, and EA has, they made some posts on the forums, like one of the official EA forum account things on the Battlelog forums made some posts saying, it's only rumor and stuff like that, even though, I guess, it was through Origin. But anyway, I don't know what the fuck is happening there exactly, but people were real mad, because basically they were assuming that what it meant was we're going to be getting Battlefield 4 in 2013, and they're saying, oh, it's a Call of Duty, 2-year, sort of 18-month development cycle, and all this kind of crap, and that may be true. That may very well be the case, that we'll get, October 2013 will be Battlefield 4, because, last time, we had Medal of Honor, then we had BF3 the next year, now we're going to have Medal of Honor, and then not unreasonable to think we might have Battlefield 4 the year after, again, around the same time. And that sort of got me thinking about the fact that I think what people really miss about sort of the golden days of gaming, which, in my mind, stretches from sort of like 1996 through to about 2006, for about 10 good solid years there. And I think what people really miss is the idea that you've got one game, you've got the game, and that's... Cat, please relax, I'm trying to orate here, and just my cat on my lap. You've got one game, and that's the game for 3, 4, 5 years, something like that, like you had with games like Half-Life and its massive modding community, the Battlefield titles and their associated giant modding communities, particularly Battlefield 2, but also the earlier Battlefield games that people kept playing for a very long time and had fairly substantial modding communities. And people really miss that idea that you have one game, you play the game, there's a big community surrounding the game of all the other people who play the game, and you have these mods and all this kind of cool stuff. Whereas what we get now is more so this thing that it's much more money hungry on the part of the publishers and developers, where the idea is that a new game comes out every year or every 2 years, and the expectation is that the community flocks to the new game, and so you still have this sense of a community that's keeping together. it does splinter a little bit, because some people will stay with the old game and stuff like that. Most people will get the new title, so you have this sort of community that's instead of staying with one game for 4 or 5 years, is buying the new game every year, every 18 months, every 2 years, something like that. And aside from the fact that that's a lot more expensive for the consumer, you get less value for your money. I still think it's plenty good value, by the way. If you played BF3 for more than like 20 or 30 hours, I'd say you got your money's worth. That's sort of my metric for a full price game. Is if I get 30 hours out of it, I tend to feel like it was pretty good value. If I enjoyed those 30 hours, I personally have played Battlefield 3 for like close to 500 hours, so I definitely got my money's worth there. But aside from that, it is more money hungry on the publisher's part. The idea that the community moves to the new game more frequently, spends that money, and particularly when you throw in DLC with Battlefield Premium and stuff like that, the big publishers make a lot more money this way. And you could argue that as a gamer, as part of the gaming community, you should be enthusiastic and glad that you're getting more content, that the next big game is coming out sooner and stuff like that. I certainly would have minded if I hadn't had to wait 8 years for Half-Life, 7 years, whatever, for Half-Life 2 to come out after the first Half-Life. Then again, it might not have been as good a game without that really, really long sort of gestation time. So who can say? But, you could make an argument that you should be enthusiastic because you're getting more content more quickly, and the next big thing comes faster and all that kind of stuff. But if you asked me, if you put me on the spot and said, like, look, TTC, do you miss the days of Half-Life 1, of Battlefield 2, where, you played the same game for 5 years, and you could pick up any one of, like, a dozen mods, and there'd be, a couple hundred people playing, and you'd be able to sit there in your mod of choice, and there'd be few enough people playing at that point that, you'd start to get to know the other people playing the mod and stuff like that, and you'd play, and yeah, absolutely, I really do miss those days of sort of a community-driven, like having a big modding community, a community-driven sort of gaming community surrounding the game, and the idea that you sort of stuck with your game for a while. I do miss those days. I absolutely do, 100%. And that used to be the big business. That used to be the way that all the sort of big publishers and stuff did their business, because I guess the market was a lot smaller back then, and the model that they use now wouldn't have been as successful. I'm not sure, guys. Maybe just back in those days, the developers were actually in it for the love, and now they're all greedy, money-hungry bastards. I don't know. I'm not gonna, tell you why things changed, but what I do know, what I can tell you is those days will never come again. EA, Activision, those big publishers will never, ever, ever, ever in 1,000 years release another game that's expected to have a 5-year lifespan, that comes out and releases modding tools, that doesn't just get shoved out the door a little bit early, that really gets done until it's done, and comes out in a really good polished state. That's not going to happen. Those days are gone. The big publishers are never going to do that again, and that's just something we have to deal with and accept, because, no matter how much complaining, how much crying, how many angry letters you send to EA, to DICE, to say, look guys, we just missed the old days with BF2, when people, had this sense of community, when there were mods, and all these other cool features and stuff like that. It doesn't matter how many of those angry messages you send, because money talks, and the publishers are simply going to make more money this way, because and I know that whether or not you personally buy the next installment, I'm not making any comments on any of your honor, I'll buy the next Battlefield game, I can tell you that much, and the vast majority of people will, even of the people who are pissed off by the new business model. They're still going to buy it. And so as long as, that keeps being a more profitable thing, and I believe it will, the big publishers are never going to go back to the old ways. And yeah, that's kind of sad in a way. But, and this is a big but, a very important but there's actually hope. It's not all grimdark, guys, because what's happened in the last few years since games like Halo and Call of Duty 4 and stuff like that came out and really exploded the industry and got a lot more people playing games is, well, there are a lot more people playing games. There are a lot more gamers today in 2012 than there were in 2005 when Battlefield 2 came out, and there's going to be more people playing going into the future. I am certain of it. It's going to become more and more of a normal thing that a lot of people do. And on the one hand, that may have made the business far more business-like in some extents for the large publishers. But what it has also meant is that we're starting to see indie games and smaller publishers and developers that might not exactly be called indie, but smaller devs and true indie devs finding an audience a lot more readily, a lot more successfully. I mean, the most common example is Minecraft making not enormous amounts of money, but there's plenty of other examples of indie publishers who 10 years ago wouldn't have been able to find an audience for their games, now being able to release a title and get enough of an audience to, have some return on their investment at least, if not make millions and millions of dollars like Notch. And what's going to happen, I predict, is as the gaming industry, as the number of gamers continues to expand, and we see more and more people playing games, those indie games are going to become more and more successful in turn. Obviously, the main thing will always be the mainstream titles, which, as I've said, the AAA titles are never going to go back to that model we know and love. But as the number of gamers expands, so too is that indie market at a sort of related rate. Not the same speed, perhaps, but at a sort of related rate. And from that indie market, that's where we can expect to find developers who are, still doing it for the love. Developers who need to make sure that they ingratiate themselves with their community so that their community continues to support them because they don't have that kind of brand power. Developers who are interested in game development and are interested in making their game an open platform to modders. And I think that if you want that kind of experience that, you know, Battlefield 2 had, that Half-Life had, with all these mods and these really big communities, a few things have to happen. First of all, it's sort of the dark ages right now. Things are bad at the moment, I freely admit. So, I mean, the first thing you're probably going to have to do is wait a couple of years. It's not quite there yet, the industry isn't quite big enough, and people aren't quite aware enough of what's on the fringes to really make any game like that enormously successful today. So, I mean, the first thing is you probably have to wait like 2 or 3 years. And I know that's kind of sad, but at least we're going to have new Battlefield games to play in the meantime, right, guys? And I'm sure they won't be fucking lens flare dubstep like BF3. They're good. Anyway, so the first thing you have to do is wait a few years. And the second thing is, I guess, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it, actually. I mean, the second thing is to be open to the idea that if you want that kind of modding community and stuff like that, you're going to have to accept, you know, not necessarily having the best graphics or the best, like, production value and stuff like that, but I think the gameplay will make up for it in some cases anyway. So, I mean, I don't know. I'm not really happy with where the gaming industry is right now. There's a lot of derivative crap getting pushed out. There's a lot that I miss from, you know, 10 years ago that can't happen in the modern industry. But I do believe there's a light at the end of the tunnel. I think things are going to get better, and I think we will see a resurgence from the indie community of the kind of games that gamers like me want to play. The kind of games that last, that have a sense of community, that have, you know, modding capabilities, modding support. I think that's coming, but just don't fucking look to Activision or EA for it, because that will never, ever happen. Anyway, that's going to be the end of this video, guys. My plan here was with the gameplay was just, I'm just going to go play Conquest Large and record some gameplay and then record commentary, and when I'm done the commentary, I will stop the recording. So that's going to be the end of this commentary, guys. Let me know in the comments what you think about where gaming is going. Do you think my predictions are right, and that we're going to see the indie market growing and supplying some of those kinds of experiences that we miss? Or do you think that we're basically just fucked and it's never going to happen and we're all just going to have to live in eternal depression forever? Or are you one of the people who's really happy about the current sort of DLC-heavy, sequel-heavy business models? Do you like that? And if so, why? I mean, I can understand that point of view. As I said, there's an argument for that. And I'm curious to know what you guys think, so, you know, leave a comment and let me know. Meet the Weapon will be continuing at some stage. I think I'm going to do something a little bit different with it again to keep things fresh. I've been feeling like, I don't know, I haven't been feeling horribly motivated with Meet the Weapon. But if you're waiting for the next Meet the Weapon vid, that will happen at some stage. In the meantime, I'll probably be making a few more videos like this where I just talk about sort of gaming or Battlefield shit in general. Anyway, that's all for today, folks. Until next time, Troubletcat out.